Everyone. Welcome to another episode of Open Book. I am Billy Price. I am the co founder of Billy Footwear. And one of the things I love about Open Book, if you're not familiar with the program, is it gives us the opportunity to have a platform to, one, introduce other amazing people out there that are doing amazing things, but also within that same fold, allow more stories to be shared. So this week, I am super excited. We have a fantastic guest. Her name is Liz Bronson with the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo out of Omaha. So, Liz, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. I'm super excited to be here.
So, Liz, there are so many things I want to ask you, and it's all kind of pertaining to rodeo related. I went to the rodeo way back when I grew up in. I'm in Seattle, Washington, in Eastern Washington. It's a very rural area. I remember going to the rodeo as a kid way back when with my grandparents, and absolutely enjoyed it. I've never had the opportunity to really ride on any of that kind of stuff, but definitely as a spectator, it has always captivated my attention. So I would love for you to be able to, one, kind of encapsulate what the rodeo is, but also really touch on Challenge Rodeo because I know that it's incredibly special because it just screams inclusion.
Yeah, so there's a really big rodeo that comes through Omaha, and it's always been a really unique experience because it runs the last weekend of September, which in the PRCA rodeo world is kind of the last weekend to gain money to make yourself to get to national finals. And so Omaha's always kind of been a really popular stop. And you didn't realize it till we kind of moved back to Omaha after we got married, got settled, and we thought, wow, this is really fun. And we kind of got involved. My husband's family is very involved with the rodeo committee as they were putting this on for years and years and years. And there was a year that we kind of had settled back into Omaha, and our husband's cousin said, why don't you guys come on down and help out with this event that we do? It's really, really cool. And we were like, okay, sure. What is it? We were, really young and looking for some ways to get involved in our community. And lo and behold, we got to end up volunteering our first year at Rough and Ready. And it was life changing. We got to walk into a room full of wide ranges of children to young adults, all experiencing kind of a mock-up rodeo and a rodeo event that included them. We got to take down and kind of break down barriers to say, yep, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna push your wheelchair in the dirt, and no one's gonna be, looking at you, and we're gonna just have a lot of fun. And it was a really unique way to get a very different perspective. I think everyone's exposure to people with disabilities looks so different. And so, whether it was an exposure when you were in grade school or high school or into adulthood, that looks and feels different. And so, kind of getting an opportunity to look at a room and be present in a room full of people with varying degrees of disability, but all to know that they want that opportunity to feel included and to see it. They may sit in the stands, but an opportunity to be up close and personal with livestock, and an opportunity to be up close and personal with people that ride this livestock. Our high school contestants come in and they volunteer that morning, and kind of depending on which cowboys and cowgirls are in town that weekend, they're there too. And these are people that are sitting in Las Vegas for 10 days in December, but then they're sitting in our rodeo with us and they're walking around, and there's people that for sure know and follow them throughout their whole year experience in rodeo. And we have participants and their families that are like, that's Tough Cooper walking by. And he's, as personable as can be. And so we got a chance to kind of evolve. And each year, we kept coming back for more. We got an opportunity to recruit some more friends and come in and say, hey, what are you doing this third weekend in September? I have plans for your Saturday morning. And so we kind of got an opportunity to just get to share that with people. And then it's evolved over time. And now we get to be, as parents of a 4-year old with disabilities, this opportunity gets to serve our family. And we've kind of evolved from being volunteers that just showed up on Saturday to now being a co chair and getting some exposure and growing our community. It's so Rough and Ready is such a fun morning. And it's even cooler now that my family gets to experience it. Now that Teddy's 4 and he is in the arena dirt, and he is, the sensory seeking kid who wants to be messing with the hay and touching the horses and moving around, to that morning, that looks so cool and feels so cool to just be a morning to bring everyone together. I think the unique opportunity that we get to bring in groups of volunteers from all walks of life. We have high school rodeo contestants who come in, and this opportunity to see what see what disability looks like when they probably maybe haven't been exposed, and to know that it's okay to say, hey, how's it going, this is my name, and that people have a name, and people beyond if they're a wheelchair user, or they require a walker, or they need an assistive device or a mobility device, what that looks like. But then to have a moment where that barrier kind of looks invisible and feels invisible, and we kind of broke it down to say, you know what, they're having a really great morning, and this is who I am, and there's more to me than me coming in a wheelchair, but this is what I'd like. And our participants get a chance to say, I really like this cool thing on TV, and they're with people maybe just a few years older than them, and what that looks like. Or a few years ago, we had a collegiate hockey team come in, and so those kids are 18, 19, and 20 years old, and they had minimal exposure. They've been athletes their whole life and have maybe interacted with just a few people, but to just get that barrier, break it down, and have a moment of vulnerability, but also promote that inclusion of how can we walk in the same, be in the same area, and no matter if you walked into the arena or you rolled into the arena or how you got here, we're all getting to enjoy this morning together, and
Yeah.
what that I don't know what that looks and what that feels like, and to get some awareness for our participants to say there's people out there that are going to be that are learning too, and how can we learn and grow, and then combine with our community partners to say, hey, this event is out here, and how can you support us in what, challenging them, I guess, in an aspect to say, what does inclusion look like to you and your organization, and how can what does that look and feel like, but then how can you speak to that and show your representation to say we want to be an organization that is inclusive, and how we do that,
Yeah.
versus saying just saying they're doing it, but to like be present and to be active and to be involved means so much more.
Yeah. Well, so up on screen right there, I put the website, and so everyone that's watching or everyone's listening, it's omaha rivercityrodeo.org, and I went on this website, and actually, Liz, I can have you walk you through like how to navigate it, but I will say before you jump in, going in there, there's an absolutely beautiful, long scripted. It just really takes you visually from where as you walk into the arena, and it just paints this picture of what you're going to see. And Liz, what I want to ask you is the picture that you painted within those words, it screams inclusion, which is amazing. And every single person that's coming in there is going to be seeing something different. And it's going to be someone without a disability seeing a room full of other people with disabilities, but also those, like speaking from the perspective of someone with a disability, like me rolling in there, seeing all this different stuff, which I think is so incredibly cool. And I don't know, it just, what you paint there in those paragraphs, in those words, is just such a beautiful picture of community, such a beautiful picture of inclusion, and such a beautiful picture of like being able to come together and all have a brilliant time. So can you walk us through the website?
Yeah, so when you get to our Omaha River City Rodeo.org website, there is a section in the top, in the like right hand corner, that says participate. And we have a few different things that go on during the 2 nights of the rodeo and kind of that weekend. And our biggest thing is the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo. And so if you get to the participate, the drop down menu will go over there, and you kind of hover and make your way to the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo page. And we kind of have our big introduction of what we are. This is an event that is focused for our participants with disabilities. This is saying, this is a come one, come all. This is if you got a wheelchair, if you use a mobility aid, if you're walking into the arena, but that arena is overwhelming and it's a sensory experience, I want you there. And that we're not just going to say, oh, nope, it has to be this or that, but we're going to welcome you with open arms to walk in and to see it and to feel it and to experience it. I think so many times you get down to that moment and it's kind of overwhelming. It's even as just a neurotypical person walking in, it's kind of overwhelming just because the arena is really big and there's a lot going on, and people are moving around it, and what that feels and looks like. But then also what that feels and looks like to walk in and see that is so cool, to kind of break down that barrier and celebrate our community and what we can do and how we can promote and show and raise awareness for inclusion, but more so what it actually just looks like. I think so many times we talk about it, but this is living it, and this is being there and being present in it.
Yeah.
We have a friend that showed a really cool video and did some videography for us to just give this like outward approach of what it looks like to prepare for the morning and getting, everyone in the arena to just be together is so unique, and to just see everyone smiling. I think so many people, we don't know what people are experiencing and what they've gone through, and kind of what they went through just to get there for the morning. But to have a moment to look around the room and see people experiencing joy and experiencing joy amongst one another feels really, it's really cool to just be in that moment and be, seeing people be cheered on by peers that they've never met, seeing kids really having so much fun. It's like it's just so inspirational. And like I said, over the course of time, we've gotten to see it. And each year, we kind of went back for a little bit more. Like that was so cool, and we kind of recruited a few more people, and we've evolved over time to say this is something that we really want to love and promote. And then now, as a mom of a 4-year-old with disabilities, we have a lifelong of opportunity and inclusion for him. But what does that look like in our community, and how can we continue growing and not just saying like this is our bar that we've met it, but how can we keep growing so that people kind of really understand what it means like to be inclusive, and what that looks like, what it feels like, and the people that we kind of bring in as a player in the game to say, how can we do this in many places and not just at the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo, but in another event that's occurring, or what it looks like in the school system, or just kind of how that evolves, I think is going to be so important to see as our community can grow.
Yeah. Well, I love everything about that. And I'm one of the things I'd love to have you talk about just a little bit, because it's very specific rodeo. And I'm wondering if I've got a 4-year-old, and I'm just kind of curious to know if he'll ever take this up, or if mom will let him do it. But could you describe mutton busting? Because that just absolutely, it just
Yeah,
seems so high energy. And
it is.
it was something I just learned about recently. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a dare! You have to be such a daredevil kid to be able to do that. But I was hoping you could describe that.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's a fun event for us that we typically, our participants are like 5 to 7 years old. And they get an opportunity. We kind of get them all. They wear like their little chest piece and their helmet. We kind of get them all fitted up, and then we have a load, kind of a group of sheep that we put them on, and it's like a lot of prep work of saying like, okay, are you ready? How tight are you going to hold on to the sheep? And 5, 6, and 7 year olds are so awesome because they are like, I'm going to do this, or I'm really pumped, or and you kind of get some morning time to kind of prep them up and see how they're going. And you get them on a sheep, and then the sheep takes off, and there's like a 50-50 shot if they'll make it beyond the first probably 5 feet. And they're always probably 90% are always really stunned when they kind of get dumped off their sheep, and typically have our rodeo queens out there as the first person that they kind of see when they get picked up, or people are picking them up and cheering them on. And about probably 40% have a face full of tears, and you're like, you did so great, this is so awesome, you were so awesome, because they're at that moment then terrified and mortified that they just did that. But it's such a fun way to see what the kids do. I mean, 5, 6, and 7 year olds are just a fun bunch of kids. They're kind of getting into grade school. They share a lot of things about them of like, my brother did this, and like this happened in my family today, or my favorite color is this. And so it's really cool to get them in that little moment to have be a little bit vulnerable, and then you kind of pick them back up, and they're so resilient, and you're like, oh my gosh, you did so awesome, that was so cool, and they're like, okay, fine, and kind of wiping away their tears, and getting them through. So that's a really fun part of our rodeo weekend. We do that each night of the rodeo, so it's kind of like our probably middle of the night event that we kind of gather our groups of kids to do that. And then we also do like a high school rodeo champions challenge. And so we have high school rodeo participants. So these are, you know, guys and girls in high school starting to compete at that level. And they, from Nebraska, Iowa, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Kansas, and these kids come in, and they have, this is a hobby that you get into that they spend a lot of time practicing, and they kind of, spend a lot of grit and a lot of travel dollars to kind of get and go everywhere. And so they have a unique opportunity to come in too and win some scholarship money. And that's grown over the last couple of years. And we get a group of those kids that come in, and then we get to also kind of have them come in and participate in the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo. And they come in that morning and they're helping our participants around the room, and they're kind of forming that bond with our group of participants that come in. And then those kids 3 hours later are competing on the back of a really rank bronc, or they're getting on a bowl, and you're just like, wow, they're so well rounded and such unique students, just because they're high school kids, but they're really growing into young adults, and seeing how we can kind of impact their morning and how much fun they are. And they're all teams. These are the Nebraska kids and these are the Iowa kids, and a lot of them all know each other, because it's not like there's 150 kids in their group that do high school rodeo, but they kind of know all their buddies that rodeo in Iowa, rodeo in South Dakota, and kind of what that looks and feels like. And so it's so fun to gather everyone and kind of celebrate Western heritage and how that grows and what that looks like. And it doesn't necessarily mean that every kid was born on a farm and lives out in a big piece of land. There's definitely kids from all walks of life. And so I think that's so fun to bring them in and get them exposed, and help them kind of create some bonds to just promote that exposure and that opportunity that they can grow, and that what disability looks like and what inclusion can look like, and how that can then evolve as they grow. Just because I think about that moment that maybe was somebody's first time being exposed to a person with disabilities, and maybe that was once, versus, oh, we did it this weekend and like it's no big thing, and we can keep doing this. And how do they approach and navigate that? I think the more that we can provide them with, it's okay to ask questions, and there's a balance of asking questions and respecting, somebody's, medical needs or what's going on with them. But I think, kind of getting away from that, like, oh, don't look or don't ask, or does it, how do we break that down so that when my 4-year-old that's with disabilities gets into first grade, that it feels like nothing, and that he can be in a classroom that's inclusive and be welcomed, and not be, and I as a mother cannot be terrified for him of like, is he going to have friends, and what are people going to say, and what does that look and feel like? So
Well, there's so many levels of inspiration here. I mean, being able to like tear down those barriers and open up those lines of communication. I mean, that's always one. Two, being able to get kids out and about, or adults, I mean, out and about, that they may not necessarily be able to get out and about and be in these public settings, in a big event like this. But then there's the actual athletes themselves, like actually participating. Being able to actually just show that courage. I mean, like, there could be some fear of like whatever. I mean, riding those bulls and like going on those sheep and stuff like that are running. And it's just like a matter of, I mean, courage isn't the lack of fear. It's a matter of like having the fear, but still being able to move forward. So I think that courage is like, it's not just the athletes on the animals and stuff like that. It transcends all of this. I mean, because you need to be courageous to like step into a conversation, right? You need to be courageous to be able like to tear down those barriers. You need to be courageous to create inclusive environments, to be a volunteer in something like this, a big movement. So, I mean, this event, I mean, it just like really encapsulates so many different elements. And I don't know. I love hearing your story. I'm curious. I mean, I know you're a facilitator on this one. Have you ever been a participant?
we no, I've not been a participant. So we get to help with the Rough and Ready Challenge Rodeo, and then I also help. My husband's cousin is the one who does all of our button busing registration. So I get to kind of help get our kids registered in that, and kind of be down in the arena with them, kind of prepping them. And so I have not participated. I'm a really good cheer on person. I can be your biggest cheerleader in a multitude of things. Um, as our family participates in the Rough and Ready itself with Teddy, my darling 4-year-old. And I typically have like a couple family members come help and be kind of his main support that day. And it's really, I don't know, it's been really cool to like have them experience it too, just as our family has really been able to dive into what a world with disability looks like, and knowing it's okay to say that. It's okay to say I have my 4-year-old's name is Teddy, and he is a child with disabilities, and what that looks like, because now that they are in their 50s and 60s, their exposure was so minimal. They maybe knew what that one kid growing up, or maybe as an adult they work with one person that is not neurotypical, and so what that looks and feels like can then transcend even into their adult life. And I don't know, it's been able to help change our language. I would say, like, just within our family and our extended group of our committee to say, it's okay to talk about this and it's okay to grow. Over time, things have transcended and changed, and the way that we talk about individuals with disabilities has for sure gone through a whole list of verbiage and how we, you know, how we discuss it, how we promote it, how we talk about inclusion is for sure an opportunity to grow. And so giving that opportunity to the people that we're around, our own family or the whole committee that's, 60 people sitting on this committee and saying, this is how we can grow. I think we're all so used to now feeling that there's many, many ways that we can grow each day, even in the last couple of years of how we can grow ourselves and how we can do the hard work to grow and what that looks and feels like. And so this is kind of our little piece of the pie to say, this is our commitment to growth and this is our commitment to helping others grow. And it's okay to like feel stressed out about that growth. It's okay to worry about that growth, but giving people kind of a sounding board to say, let's move forward and let's promote these things. And this is what I would expect that this looks like, promoting it and not just saying that we're doing it, but let's do the hard work so that we can, just be a better society and be a better community and have better resources.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, groundbreaking stuff there. I mean, oh gosh. I mean, when you use the word moving forward, I mean, that's always one that I have in the back of my pocket, because it's like me being a wheelchair user, that wasn't always the case. I mean, I had a former life where I was fiercely independent, and then I fell out of a window and broke my neck, and then all of a sudden it changed. And it was a matter of like figuring out how to pick up the pieces and move forward. It's not a matter of, you can't go back and change things. It's a matter of like, you have to be in the now, and don't forget about the past, like embrace the past, but use those as more of a tool to help you move forward. And it definitely is easier to move forward when you're moving forward together in a safe space with a loving community. So,
Yeah.
Liz, this conversation was amazing. I just want to give you the mic one more time, just kind of share whatever's on your heart before we sign off.
Yeah, this has been such a cool, unique opportunity to continue to share our story and to get different platforms to share it. We have been a Billy's family for years now. Teddy's 4, and he's been in SMOs and has needed definitely some footwear to help accommodate him. And so figuring out what is, things in our pool and our resources that work best for our family, but then getting an opportunity to sit down and chat with you is so inspiring to know how Billy started and what this looked like and how this grew from just your story, and doing that and being able to say, let's do this and offer this for other people has been so cool. So many people know Teddy and they'll be like, oh, have you seen these shoes for him? And we're like, yes, he wears them, guys. Like, yes, yes, yes. And then we get an opportunity to send them along to just even his classroom of 8 students. People are like, oh my God, we love Teddy's shoes are way easier than, these other shoes that are not made for, their SMOs and their AFOs, and supporting him to move through. So, and also being like, I don't know, we appreciate them because as a family, they're something that's super fun and super bright and super cool, but then it's also something that we can accommodate as a family. So we're not spending so much money on footwear that he grows. So he grows through and does that. So I don't know, it's been really fun to get to connect and share our story and share the ways that we're trying to, grow our community. So we're really appreciative of that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Liz. Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride on our side. I mean, it's incredible how much success has actually come from word of mouth. I mean, you help one person out and they help 2 more people out, and it just kind of compounds over time. And it's such an honor for us to be able to have you on the show, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is get the word out, share everything that you guys are doing. Again, let me put the website up, everyone. It's OmahaRiverCityRodeo.org for the website, and then it's very similar for social. So make sure to go check that out. Liz, what you guys are doing is absolutely incredible. Keep it up. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. And everyone else out there, this is another episode of Open Book. We will have another one again, probably pretty soon. So until then, take care. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.